Welcome to Dead Man Talking. Tonight's show, we welcome back a good friend, CarlB1961, from over on Reddit No Sleep. And as ever, please do let me know what you thought down below in the comments box. Please do like and share. It really does help build the channel and our community further. And why not hashtag TeamFEAR and DMT's Cryptid crew. And so, with that aside, let's get into tonight's story. Entitled, The Urn. Let's get straight into that. Davy was the first one who found the urn. He was operating the excavator, and he was the one who uncovered it. I was standing with some of the other guys in the shade of the idle bulldozer, enjoying a smoke break and telling some jokes and shooting the bull when it happened. All at once there was an eye-wateringly high-pitched squealing / shrieking sound, like fingernails across a chalkboard. So loud it seemed to almost override even the deafening roar of the excavator's engine. "What the fuck?" Sandy, who was standing to my right, shouted in surprise, interrupting Clark, who was in the middle of a particularly long, dirty joke about travelling businessman who goes into a sex shop to buy a dildo for his wife when he was out of town. We all turned simultaneously in the direction the sound had come from, and Davy, who was at the excavator's controls, raised the bucket, then put the machine in reverse and backed off of whatever he had hit. Must have struck a rock," Mick observed without much interest. "Damn big one by the sound of it." And Davy, meanwhile, was hopping down from the excavator's cab. He jumped down into the 4-foot deep trench he had cut into the ground to inspect whatever the leading edge of the bucket had scraped. "Hey!" we heard him yell after about a minute or so. "Hey! Come check this out!" And we exchanged quizzical glances, and then we headed over to where Davy was crouching. Some of the other guys in the crew were also coming over, attracted by the commotion, and we gathered around the rectangular cut and looked down. But Davy, he was on his knees, excitedly brushing away the dirt from some half-buried object at the bottom of the excavation. It wasn't a chunk of rock like we had been expecting. It was too smooth, its shape too round. It looked like it was about 2 feet tall, a faded tan color, and appeared to be made out of either ceramic or possibly stone. It looked like some kind of container or a jar. There were strange symbols etched into its surface. It looked like some kind of hieroglyphics or possibly some runes. "What the fuck is it?" Vic, a big scary ex-biker with a shaved head and a lot of tattoos and a gravely rasp of a lifetime smoker, asked to no one in particular. "Looks like a urn." Santos, a Mexican kid who had only been on the crew for about a week, replied. "What?" Sandy asked him. "An urn, you know, like what they put your grandma's ashes in after she's cremated, so you can put them on a mantle." He paused. "It's bigger than a regular one, though." "It looks ancient," Clark said. "What the fuck do you think those symbols mean?" We all exchanged looks and shrugged. None of us had a clue. Davy finished brushing the dust off the large urn surface, revealing a thin, zigzagging crack running lengthwise from top to bottom. The blade of the excavator must have damaged it. He turned and looked up at us, grinning excitedly. "I think I just made an archaeological discovery, guys." "Yep," Vic muttered. "A real relic. Too bad you had to go and bust it." He indicated a crack running down the length of it. Davy shrugged. "Might still be worth something." He crouched down to give his find a more detailed inspection. Then the top of it tapered to a stem with a lid on top. He rubbed his finger against it. "Looks like someone sealed the top with a wax or something." He'd started to add something else, but just then, without any warning at all, the urn, or whatever it was, slit open, cracking in two like an egg, and with an enormous boom, causing us all to jump. An explosion of foul-smelling air rushed out, the rotten egg smell of sulfur. It stung our eyes and caused all of us to stagger back, coughing and gagging. After about 20 seconds, the outrush of putrid air abated. "What the fuck was that?" Mick choked out, startled. "It must have been escaping gases," I said. Still coughing, we looked back into the excavation. What had seconds before had been only a hairline crack in the surface of the urn was now a jagged 2-inch fissure, and Davy was crouched over it, peering intently into the black, zigzagging gash that had appeared. He looked fascinated. "You guys, there's something inside of it. There's something shimmering." He leaned close for a better look. I felt a sudden, irrational wave of dread. I opened my mouth to shout a warning, to tell him to get away from it, but it was too late. It happened so quickly, my eyes barely had time to even register it, and something shot out of the shattered urn and hit Davy square in the face. It looked like some kind of oily black liquid. It happened in a split second, faster than you could blink, but even still, I noticed something. It didn't gush out of the urn like liquid under pressure. It seemed to leap out, as if of its own accord, like an animal springing upon its prey. Now Davy emitted a cry of alarm, a sound somewhere between a shout and a scream, and recoiled, falling onto his back and writhing and grabbing at his face. "Jesus, what the shit?" Sandy yelled in horror and confusion. "Davy, you alright, bro?" Mick asked him, concerned. "What is that stuff?" Vic asked. Davy, meanwhile, had stopped flailing around at the bottom of the trench. His hands fell limply away from his face. His eyes were closed and he seemed to be unconscious. He wasn't moving. His face was perfectly clear. There was no sign of that black substance that had hit him. We all began to panic then, everyone shouting all at once and speaking over each other. "Oh shit, Davy!" Clark said in a high, frantic voice that almost was a wail. "Get him out of there!" Vic shouted at us. Mick and me jumped down into the hole and lifted Davy's body, hoisting him up. The guys at the top helped to pull him out and laid him on the ground. And Clark straddled him and began to slap him lightly in the face, trying to rouse him. Somebody call 911, Sandy screamed. I was already fumbling in my jeans for my phone, but before I could dig it out, Davy stirred. He began to move his head slowly from side to side. His fingers flexed. "Oh, thank God," Vic said, breathing out a sigh of relief. "I think he's coming too." And slowly, Davy got to his feet as we backed away to give him some space. His face was calm, almost serene. His eyes were still closed. Clark took a step towards him and placed a hand on his shoulder. "You okay, man?" he asked him. Davy didn't respond. His eyes were still closed. "Davy," Clark said. Davy opened his eyes. They were black, totally black and soulless, like the eyes of an insect. Before any of us could react, Davy seized Clark, clutching his head between his hands and yanked him forward. "Help!" Clark screamed, struggling to break loose. Sandy and I ran over to grab Davy from behind, trying to pull him away from Clark, while Vic tried to tug Clark free from the other side. "Get him off!" Sandy shouted at Davy. Ignoring us, Davy opened his mouth. Jet black, sheeny substance erupted from between his lips, and a high-pressure jet splashed upon Clark's terrified face. The same foul black stuff from the urn Davy had unearthed. Clark uttered a short, choked scream. Instantly, Davy released him and Clark fell backwards and began to spasm. Davy spun around and leaped upon Sandy. Vic was kneeling beside Clark. "Oh, Christ, what is this shit?" He wailed in terror. I turned and looked down at Clark, and what I saw made me feel like swooning. The stuff Davy had vomited onto Clark's face was moving on its own. Tendrils of it were streaming into Clark's mouth, nostrils and eyes like living crude oil. In only a few seconds, it was all gone, seeped into Clark's orifices, and leaving no trace behind. And Clark opened his eyes, and they were black. Behind me, I heard Sandy scream. I turned and looked, and Davy was on top of Sandy, poised above his face and with his mouth open. I heard another scream from the opposite direction and whirled around. Clark had grabbed Vic by the collar of his work shirt and was pulling him down to his gaping mouth. Mick and Santos were standing by him motionless, watching all of this with a disbelieving terror across their face, and Santos was murmuring a prayer in Spanish. Now Clark was getting to his feet, Vic writhing on the ground and clutching his face next to him. I looked behind me and saw Davy and Sandy, their black, inhuman eyes locked on me, approaching slowly but with a purpose. Oh, let's get the fuck out of here, I screamed at Mick and Santos and bolted, running full tilt boogie, and I waited to see if they followed, panicked, reduced to a basic primal instinct of self-preservation. I came to the on-site office trailer on the perimeter of the construction zone and stuck my head in the door. And Sal, the foreman, was standing with the project's architect, going over the plans for the new shopping centre sewage system. They looked at me, taken aback by my frenzied, wild-eyed appearance. "Call the police!" I screamed at them. "The guys on the crew, they're going crazy. It's some kind of chemical making them go insane. Don't go near them if their eyes are black." And then I took off, leaving them flabbergasted, not pausing to see if they heeded my advice. I ran to the parking lot, jumped into my old rusty Chevy, and laid down rubber as I peeled out of there. And I drove out of the city and checked into a cheap motel the next town over. And that was 3 days ago. I've been following the news on TV very carefully. The National Guard and the CDC has cordoned off a 20-block section of the city. The official story is that it's an extremely contagious new strain of rabies, but they keep on expanding a containment zone as the violence and rioting keeps spreading. The infected now numbering in the thousands. A grim-faced general was interviewed and was of an opinion that if the situation isn't brought under control soon, extreme measures might be necessary to quell the chaos. When the reporter asked him if an airstrike was on the table, he replied that he had the option and it hadn't been ruled out. I tried to call the construction company about getting my last paycheck, but I never got a reply. I never found out what happened to Mick and Santos either. I hope they got their head out of there while the getting was good. And what the fuck was in that urn that Davy unearthed? And where the fuck did it come from? And who buried it? I'm probably going to be moving on in another day or two and look for work in another city, one far, far away from here. God, help us for unleashing that thing, whatever it is, upon the world. I really hope the military gets this mess taken care of real quick. And if it does come down to having to bomb the city, I hope that it works, because otherwise, God help us all. Wow, 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 wow. Certainly another one. Wow. Fantastic short but absolutely creepy tale there from the incredible mind of our good friend CarlB1961 from over on Reddit No Sleep. Huge thank you as always, Carl, for a heads up of this incredible story of yours. I love how you push the boundaries of our imaginations and always seem to bring something different each and every time you post. And as ever, Carl, I hope you enjoy my rendition and look forward to more of your work. Well, guys and girls, as ever, you know the drill. Please do let me know what you thought down below in the comments box. Please do like and share. It really does help both the channel and our community further. And why not hashtag TeamFEAR and DMT's Cryptid crew. And if you're an aspiring writer or would just like to have a crack at things like myself, then please do get in touch with me at my contact email, which is contactthedeadone@gmail.com. I really look forward to hearing from you. As ever, guys and girls, thank you ever so much for your extra support, your likes, your shares and your kind comments. It really does mean the world to me. And as ever, I hope you're all happy and well. But above all, guys, remember, be safe, not sorry.